Hey Art Club, this week we're going to be working with slabs. So this week is all about slab building, which is my favorite clay technique. So let me walk you through some of the ideas and projects that you could potentially do. Wall hangings, such as this one, are great for slab building. Here's another example. You can make a welcome sign for your room, or any type of ornament, anything that can hang is great for slab building. So if you wanted to make something like this right here, that would be a great idea. You could also do something like this, where you have little pieces that you will connect after it's been fired in the kiln, and you just need to make sure that you add little holes in the clay so that once it's hardened and it's fired, you can add things like string to turn it into something else. Letters for your name, that's another really good idea. And I love these tic-tac-toe boards. You can make a fun themed tic-tac-toe board like this one, where you make the X's and O's whatever you kind of want it to be. So this person did flowers as the X's and petals or leaves as the O's. Something like pizza would also be good with slab building. Here's another tic-tac-toe example. Here's a little fairy door, which is cute, and some little lily pads with flowers. So those are some options, but you can really do what you want with slab building. You just have to make it out of a slab. Okay, a little bit more about this project. So when we are using slab building, we always start with making our own template. So slabs are really hard to do if you don't have some sort of thing to trace into the clay. So one thing I've been doing is making pendants or little necklaces. So I made these two little butterfly tracers. That way I can make a bunch of butterfly pendants and cut them out of clay and turn it into a necklace. So that's one thing I did, and if you wanted to do something like that, that's a great idea. Just always start with a piece of paper. I'll have lots of paper out of different sizes that you can use and draw on and then trace onto the clay. So I'm going to go ahead and start with what we're doing today, which is the letter, which you can either use as a stand. I'm going to put mine on my desk, or you can use it as an ornament. Okay, so you can do your first name, last name, whatever letter you want to use. I like to start by just drawing it out normally, writing my letter normally, and then I'm going to make it bold by going around my normal written letter. I am going to make it flat at the bottom so mine can stand. So I'm turning this normal written letter into a bubble letter with this method. Cool. Now I can cut it out and get it traced into the clay. So I'll get out my scissors, cut it out. In order to make a slab, what you need to do is you need some slab sticks, you need a rolling pin, and of course you need your clay. We also like to use a rib for using slabs to make it nice and smooth. So we have two kinds of slab sticks. If you get the kind that are smaller, know that there's two sides. It's more of a rectangle shape. My other ones are squares. So if you can see the shape, there's one side that is more flat and one that is more tall. We like to keep it on the tall side. So I'm going to place them down with my clay in between, and I'm going to make sure they're on the tall side. Then I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to roll, making sure the slab sticks are under the actual rolling pin, the part that rolls. If your slab sticks are too far away outside of the rolling pin, this is going to defeat the whole purpose. Our purpose is that our clay is this thick, the same size as our slab stick. So let's go ahead and roll out our clay. I'm going to go ahead and keep rolling out my clay until it's the same size as my slab stick. My slab sticks are underneath the clay. And by the way, there's going to be a lot of shaky tables while we do that. That's okay, it's part of the process. I'm rolling. A lot of times it's really helpful to stand up when you're doing this. If you stand, you're going to be able to press harder into the clay, and it'll be easier to roll because you can add more pressure. I can press really hard because the slab sticks are underneath. So my clay is just going to be that thick. It's not going to be any thinner. I don't have to be afraid of making it too thin if I have my slab sticks underneath. Okay, so I'm gonna make sure my template will fit on this. By the way, it's not going to. I'm showing you this way so you can see what to do if it doesn't fit. As you can see, my G, oh, it kind of does fit. That's actually really nice. It fits. I could totally cut this out. But let me just show you what to do if it doesn't fit. So if it doesn't fit, which this actually does, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to cut off the part we don't need and squish it to add it where I might need it. Like I'm adding it right here. I'm gonna go ahead and squish it. Blend it with my fingers. And then I can re-roll it again. Move my slab stick in place and roll. Okay, before we cut anything out, I want to smooth out my clay. To do that, I need to use my rib, or like the kids call it, McRib. And all I need to do is hold it diagonally and it smooths out the clay really nicely. It'll leave some lines sometimes, but we can just get rid of that. Ooh, so smooth, so satisfying. So I'm gonna do that on both sides. Sometimes it's kind of hard to pull up the clay and it gets stuck to the board. If that happens, you can also use the rib to kind of pull up on the clay underneath it, and that will kind of help it get up and off the board. And then we're gonna cut it out. So to cut it out, there's 3 different tools you can choose. Either a plastic knife or one of these little wooden pointy tools, or if you're above 5th grade, just a needle tool or a knife. In order to cut it out, I need to make sure my needle or whatever tool I'm using to cut is straight up and down. It should not be slanted, straight up and down. So I'm gonna go ahead and go around the clay. It will actually scratch on the board. Sorry if you hate that sound. It's gonna actually scratch on the board and we should feel that. So I'm gonna go ahead around my whole piece very carefully. Again, making sure we're holding it straight up and down. And as I am going, I'm gonna take off my extra scraps. And I'm just gonna keep my area really nice and clean today. So I'll take off my scraps and then I'm just gonna go over any little pieces of clay that come off and keep it all in a nice clay ball. That way I can use this later just in case I wanna score and slip on any little details on top of my letter. I'm holding it straight up and down. Once it's cut out, there will be some little pieces of clay that come up and off the clay a little bit. We can just kind of rub those down gently with our finger, or if we want it really nice and smooth, dip our finger in a wet sponge to get rid of them. And I'm just gonna go around and make sure that's all really smooth. Anything that comes off the clay that looks like this will become really sharp when it gets hardened. So we wanna make sure that we don't have any sharp areas. So that's why I'm gonna really gently go around and just kind of tap the edges to make it not so sharp. Okay, now I can start decorating, and there are a lot of little options for decorating your letter or whatever you choose to do. And one thing I like to do is stamping. So you can find, I have so many different options of stamps. They're all in this little black bin here. And these kind are my favorite because they're actually meant for clay, and I did buy a couple ones for you guys that are new. So I have this new one. What is this? Butterfly. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this one. Butterflies. And there's all sorts of different ones in here. I'm gonna go with the butterfly. Now we're gonna stamp it into the clay, and you do have to press kind of hard for this to work really well. So my stamp, I don't really want it to cover the entire thing, maybe just the bottom. So I'm gonna go ahead and put it on the bottom of my letter right here. And you do have to press kind of hard. So I'm really pressing into the clay, making sure that I'll be able to see the design. And maybe if I really like it, maybe I will put it everywhere. And I like to check to make sure I stamped it enough. I didn't, so I'm gonna go ahead and press it more. I'm pressing really hard. But I don't wanna press too hard because I don't wanna smush my clay, so it's a balance for sure. Okay, that looks pretty good. That looks great. I'm gonna keep it. Ooh, I love it. Okay, awesome. I'm gonna keep it just at the bottom. I don't know if I wanna add it anywhere else on here. But what we're also gonna do is we're gonna add pieces that come up off the clay. So I liked adding the little butterfly stamp at the top, but I think it might look cute to have some butterflies coming off of the G. So I can use my clay scraps here, and I can do more slabs of clay to create fun little designs. And I can create stencils for them or just draw my design directly into the clay. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. When you're adding your little pieces that come off the clay, it does not have to be as thick as your initial letter. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take my clay and I'm gonna flatten it like this, just with my hand. And then I can just draw any design I want to into it, or I can trace a template that I made. That way it's nice and exact. Okay, we are almost done. Now what we need to do is score and slip everything that we added. I just kind of placed mine here for now, but they are not attached until they are scored and slipped. So let's just remember how to score and slip or scratch and attach. We're gonna draw an outline around where we want to place the pieces of clay. Then we're gonna score or create lines on both sides. So the scoring, once again, is the most important part in attaching pieces, more important than the slip. So we want to draw lines on both sides. And then we can add the slip. And I'm not going to show you how to combine all these pieces. Oops, it's kind of hard to do while I'm holding the camera. Okay, so then we're going to just add slip to one side. So I'm going to use a different tool to apply the slip. And if we make it kind of messy, we can always fix it afterwards. Okay, now I will go ahead and attach that piece of clay where I want to put it, making sure to press it down firmly, but not too firm because I don't want to break it. Alrighty, and there's one last step, and that is to remove the excess slip that seeps out. We don't want that there anymore, so I'm going to use any type of tool I have to remove that, and I like to use the wooden tools for this. And you're just kind of tracing around the outline with one of these tools to remove all the excess slip that seeps out. You don't have to make your letter as big as mine. You can make it even smaller, and you could turn it into an ornament. So a really good idea would be making your last name, the first letter of your last name, an ornament. I think your family would love that as a gift. In order to make it an ornament, all you have to do is when you're already done, you just need to poke a hole at the very top using one of these, making sure it goes all the way through the clay. I'm not making mine an ornament. I wanted mine to be a stand. So just think about that when you're making the letter. Bye.